if you want to see me wince a little bit, just say Scrum methodology. Okay, I'm going to kind of twitch a little bit because Scrum is not a methodology. Okay, Scrum is a lightweight framework. Now, how many of us has this been our life's aspiration? Someday I wish I could maybe be on the assembly line. Scrum is not your process. Okay, you own your processes. Scrum is a framework or a container for your processes. Technically, it is a meta process. Now, there's a fancy word. Who can tell me what is a meta process? It's okay if you can't, because it's kind of,
it's like an overarching
yeah,
idea for a process.
yeah, it's a process about coming up with your own processes. That's what a meta process is, a process that helps you come up with your own processes. And that's what the Scrum framework is, a process to help you come up with your own processes. So the most obvious example being in the retrospective, the framework says, stop and talk about your processes and come up with a way to improve it. So Scrum does not tell us, for example, for a software team, it doesn't tell us how to code. It doesn't tell us if we should have coding standards. Yeah, you probably should. Doesn't tell you how to test. Doesn't tell you whether you should have test automation. Strong hint, you better in Scrum. And it doesn't tell you how often to ship. And it doesn't tell you, exactly, who should be on the team. So it doesn't say what are the team members, what are the skills you need. It leaves all these most important things up to you. So Scrum is sometimes called, a little bit confusingly, beautifully empty. So Scrum is an empty container where you fill up all the processes, and then it's forcing you to continuously inspect and adapt and change those processes. That's really kind of the most obvious thing is the retrospective. It's forcing us to always reconsider and change our processes. So the Scrum is often misunderstood as being like telling you how to do things. It tells you how to do almost nothing. It just tells you have some meetings, have some roles, go figure out your own processes. Go figure out how to be a great development team. And then it doesn't really tell you how to do it.
Okay. When is going to the release, deployment?
So Scrum also doesn't say how often should we ship? And should we ship inside the sprint or not? Should we wait till the end? Should we wait till after several sprints? It doesn't tell us that either. So, because again, beautifully empty. And so, for example, it doesn't say whether you should have like a DevOps model that says, we're working on automated deployment scripts while you guys are working on the product, and all we have to do is push a button at the end and it deploys. Hey, that's a pretty dang good idea, but Scrum doesn't tell you you have to do that. So this is a really confusing thing about Scrum, but it's also a very powerful thing. Scrum is beautifully empty. Yeah.
I think to that point, if you do decide on a process approach and then you go through a sprint and realize, well, that DevOps approach was not the correct approach, let's refine. That's where you can change however you want to execute.
Well said, Molly. It's it really is experimentation. If you think about the scientific method, right, it's experimentation. What happens when you experiment? You learn, but you also fail.
Fail and learn.
Yeah, failing, fail fast. So there's that Scrum fail fast thing. Somebody supposedly asked Thomas Edison, the guy who's supposed to have created the light bulb, how did you ever come up with that tungsten thing, that didn't burn out when you turned on the light, the current? And he said, by having 1,000 failed light bulbs. And so this is similar to us. You're never going to come up with your best processes if you're not allowed to experiment and try things and probably have some sprints that don't go too well and realize, whoops, that was the wrong tool for us. Let's try something else. And that's actually what Scrum tells us to do, is continuously change. Now, for some of you, I can see some wheels are probably turning about, now my leaders have to be okay with a sprint that doesn't deliver every time. And yes, they do. because that is the whole idea of Scrum, is you're continually improving. And if we don't invest in letting people try things and fail, then we never get to be a high performing team.